And we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to talk about Dak Prescott and his comments on the Cowboys and the Eagles and how he feels that the Cowboys, are close when it comes to the Eagles. And, is he right about this? How do we feel about that? So, this is basically what he said regarding the Eagles. I feel like we've competed with the Eagles and beat them for the most part when we've played them. I don't want to say check the record when the other guy's holding the trophy right now. So credit to them, they've earned it, and they deserve it by all means. But yeah, we're very close. Now the Cowboys, they're coming off of a disappointing season. Also, Dak said, especially even watching the NFC Championship and those two teams that we've battled against each and every year a couple of times. As I said, feel confident that we've got the better part each and every time. But just seeing such a dominating fashion in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, credit to them. It's our turn. It's on us. It's on us. But I don't necessarily agree or disagree with Dak when it comes to the Cowboys competing with the Eagles because Dak Prescott has done well against the Eagles. They split in 2023. There were two very close games. The Cowboys could have swept the Eagles. And then this year, we really didn't get to see what Dak Prescott and the Cowboys could do against the Eagles because, well, Dak Prescott got hurt. Now, if Dak Prescott did play in these games, I don't think it would have went well for him regardless because he wasn't doing that great before the injury. Cowboys as a team just were not doing that great. And, the Eagles beat them both times pretty good. And the second game was without Jalen Hurts. They had Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee. And they won what, like 41-7 the final score was in that game? I think the Cowboys can narrow the gap though because, you got CeeDee Lamb, you got Dak. We'll see how this defense is next year. I think it could be better than how it was to start out. I think Matt Eberflus as the defensive coordinator, I think that could be a good move. I think they need to improve the running game. I've said that all along. You need to get another pass catcher. I know there's some rumblings of, what if they went out and they got Stephon Diggs and paired him up with CeeDee Lamb? He wants to, Diggs wants to play with his brother, Trayvon Diggs, even though they play on different sides of the ball or opposite sides of the ball. But the Cowboys need to improve this team. And I think this team is close to competing for a playoff, but I think the Eagles, this is their division. I think the Eagles, we talked about this. Could they become the next dynasty? Maybe. They got a lot of talent. And, the Cowboys, they got a first-time head coach in Schottenheimer. And the Eagles, you got Nick Sirianni, who's been to the playoffs every single year. He's been to 2 Super Bowls, and now he's just won one. So, they definitely have some catching up to do. But not only that, what about Washington? You talk about the Eagles, but, and he did bring this up that, competing against these teams a lot. And, Dak has done well against Washington as well, but he didn't play against Washington at all last year because he was hurt. We didn't get to see, a healthy Cowboys team go up against the Commanders. Now, they actually ended up, the funny thing is, they ended up beating the Commanders in Washington. And that was a crazy game. So, I think it's a little too soon to say that because, you got one team that just won the Super Bowl and the two teams in your division were playing in the championship game. But the Cowboys did, to me, have just an off year. And I do feel like they will be better in 2025. They did have a lot of injuries, but they're gonna have to improve this running game, like I said. You figure the defense is gonna be better, and you hope Dak is healthy. That's just one of the main things. Make sure your quarterback is healthy. CeeDee Lamb was banged up towards the end of the year too, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm not gonna say like the gap is significant between the Eagles and the Cowboys, but the Eagles still got a leg up on the Cowboys, especially after winning the Super Bowl and Cowboys didn't even make the playoffs, because that's a bad look. You don't even make the playoffs, and this team went on and won the Super Bowl. And not only won, they dominated in that game against a team that was going for a three-peat. I I don't think the Cowboys are a Super Bowl contender. I mean, look, they just missed the playoffs. But even with a healthy squad, Dak Prescott needs to first of all, Dak Prescott needs to get past the second round. And then we'll talk. Because he's been in the league now. This is now what, his 10th season? I can't believe it already. I remember his first game against the Giants like it was yesterday. And now he's going into his 10th year. But he only has 2 playoff wins. And his rookie season, he was the 1 seed. And they lost Aaron Rodgers. You beat a Seahawks team that maybe, shouldn't have gotten in, but they did because you got a great coach and a great quarterback at the time in Russell Wilson. They knocked them off. And then you beat Tom Brady. You beat the 8-9 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those are your 2 playoff wins. And then you get to the second round. You lose to the 49ers. And then they ended up losing. They lost to the Rams in 2018. I got to see more. Dak puts together good regular seasons. But he gets to the postseason and it just doesn't deliver. They got upset by the 7th seed. And now, they missed the playoffs in 2024. So, yeah, they need to make some improvements. But I don't think with Brian Schottenheimer, I don't think he's the answer. That doesn't mean I think the Cowboys are going to be bad. But I don't think they're going to be a team that you're going to look at them and say, yeah, with Brian Schottenheimer at the helm, this team is going to make a deep playoff run. On top of, they got to improve the roster as well. So, I think there are things the Cowboys need to focus on first before they start focusing on, hey, we're close with this team. So, but like I said, Dak Prescott has played well against the Eagles. But the Eagles are a different team. I mean, 2023, that collapse by the Eagles, they're a different team. They're a different team. They got off to a little bit of a slow start, but then they kicked it into gear and they only lost 1 game. After they were 2-2, they only lost 1 game. And that game they could have won. They are really good. They're good in all facets of the game. They have a dynamic running game now with Saquon Barkley, top offensive line, solid quarterback, good weapons. Every unit on the defensive side of the ball is solid. Some of the guys could be leaving. Zach Bond, hopefully, they can get him back. Well, as a Giant fan, hey, Giants, go out and get him. Steal him from the Eagles. But they are loaded from top to bottom. The Cowboys have good players on this team, but there are some areas they need to address. And we'll see what they do. Running game, this is a loaded running back class that's coming up. So they got to address that. I feel like offensive line maybe could be an area they could add to as well, the defensive side of the ball, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think, though, about what Dak said. Do you think the Cowboys are close to the Eagles, competing with the Eagles? I don't think there is a significant gap. Like, with the Giants and the Eagles, that is a significant gap. But when you're talking about the Cowboys had an off year. They do have a lot of talent on their team. Not as much as the Eagles, but they do have a decent amount of talent. So, gap is definitely closer than it is, when you talk about the Giants and the rest of the division and the Eagles more specifically. But they got some work to do with the team. And the other thing is, this quarterback, you want to be as good as the Eagles, you got to show up in the playoffs. Got to show up in the playoffs. Because in the regular season, yeah, Dak is solid. But you get to the postseason, it's a whole different thing. And you could point to his playoff wins, like I said, and say, yeah, I'd like to see you. I'd like to see you go on the road. Like, if he went on the road and he beat the 49ers and he played well, that would have been impressive. Or, you know, you were the 1 seed. You had home field advantage when you were a rookie. And you had a Packers team coming in. Now, Aaron Rodgers was playing great, but Packers defense was bad. But they were behind. They were behind. And they had to come back. They tied the game, but then, Rodgers, made that throw to Jared Cook. And, they ended up winning the game. And at that time, you're like, all right, well, Dak's a rookie. But now, here we are, and has not gotten to a championship game. I don't know if he is ever going to. Now, I don't think the NFC is as loaded as it once was, but there are teams you look at and you say, yeah, they're better than Dallas. They're better than Dallas. There's a handful of teams that are better than Dallas. So, that's kind of my thoughts. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got spring training is coming up this week, which I'm really excited about. NBA second half starts tonight. We talked about that. We're getting closer and closer to the new league year in the NFL, and when that happens, free agency will begin. So with the NBA, you got one game tonight, and then everybody's back on Thursday. So tomorrow. So we'll, take a look at some of those matchups as well. And then, we're in the home stretch, and March Madness is around the corner as well. I think every team has basically like 5 games left. I'm looking at Alabama's schedule right now. So they have, all right, so they got 6 games. Everybody's got at least 5 or 6 games left. So then you get the conference tournaments, and then March Madness. And we will do a bracket. Love doing brackets. So it's going to be it's fun. It's a fun time. And we'll try to cover it the best way we can. So, like I said, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well on the network, and make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. I will make sure to have all the individual segments up separately throughout the day. And, a couple more days, and then, first week in the books as the GSMC Sports Podcast host. It's not too bad, and we're slowly, trying to, because I'm still doing football podcast habits, because because we were doing it for so long. You gotta remember, we're not doing that. Gotta make sure everything says sports, and make sure you're putting the sports podcast content up where it needs to be, things like that. But we'll get there. But thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC GSMC Sports Podcast. See what I mean? GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.